Friday, February 28th, 2013. Larry, how you feeling?
Hey, good, Greg, good. Here we go again, back to Thursdays. Rolling on Thursday again. We told you, folks, we had to get a few things ironed out. Few last-minute things we had to take care of the last 2 weeks, but we're ready to go back to Thursday, and we're rolling. A lot going on. Tons going on in the sporting world. I mean, you look at the NFL, the NBA, college basketball, hockey's rolling. I mean, everything's going on. A lot of colleges start up their spring baseball right now, softball. Everything's rocking and rolling, so we got to get into some stuff, Greg. You know, we're going to get into the college basketball here in a little bit, but I think I want to start off with the NFL tonight. The Combine's going on. I know how we both feel about the Combine. I don't think either one of us really care for it too much. We're not putting too much into it. I don't think these owners or these coaches should either.
They shouldn't, but you know what? They do. And they do from the standpoint of they want to make sure that everyone passes their physical. Every single year there's always somebody that is a top-ranked pick, and we find out that he has a heart palpitation or something's wrong where he's not going to go as high as he normally should. It also gives the second-tier players, the second half of the second round and the third round and the fourth round players an opportunity to up to be in a position where they can showcase their talents, their speed, and their raw ability. They're not going to have the pro days like a Manti Te'o. They're not going to have the pro days like a Matt Barkley, where it's going to be a fiesta and everybody's going to be jogging them. They don't have that opportunity. So this is not one shot at greatness, but this is
their time to shine.
Their spot to put them on the map.
Well, we're going to get into that. There's a lot going on. We got the trade deadline coming up in the NFL, folks, in 11 days. That's March 12th. We got we got the combines going on. We got the draft coming up in April. But we're going to get all into that here. College basketball. Before we get into the NFL, we're going to talk some college basketball tonight. I tell you what, Greg, if you're a top 25 team, you got a bullseye painted on your back. There is nobody in Division I NCAA basketball afraid of anybody in the top 25, and they're proving that night in and night out, beating unranked teams, beating top-ranked teams. We just had it happen twice in the last 2 days.
Well, we've had it happen more than that in the past couple of weeks, and I think what it really comes down to is that, the way that the enrollment is designed, where basically you're either a one-and-done player, very rarely do you have teams that have seniors on it, and so you don't have leadership. So you don't get to, what everyone forgets is these college coaches, what they like to do is they like to develop talent. And usually that takes about 3 years. Their fourth year, they're a superstar. The superstars that are there early get out their junior year. That's how it used to be. And it's not to say that these kids can't play, and I'm all for them playing. But what I will say is the level of talent, even though you have great games, the level of talent is not that high because these coaches are not able to develop it. So when you see a Big Ten and Indiana losing, Michigan losing, Michigan State losing, Ohio State losing, Wisconsin losing, when you see that, I'm not necessarily as shocked as I would have been, 10 years ago. But right now, that's par for the course.
Well, you just kind of described to me a Miami Hurricanes team.
Right.
Gonzaga, a Butler, teams like that. A lot of your unranked teams that have spent time together. Look at Minnesota beating number 1 Indiana the other night. Look at last night. Penn State hasn't won a game in the Big Ten yet this year, and they turn around and beat number 4 ranked Michigan.
Well, because people are also staying home. Everyone doesn't look at, another thing that people don't look at, the economy. Some of these kids can't go far away. It's a hardship, so maybe they stay home. So some of that talent that might go out west or might go out east, depending on where you are, they're staying home. And so when you see a Penn State beating a Michigan or Minnesota being in Indiana, you know what? Maybe it's because the coach was able to recruit his state.
Yep.
They stayed in state. And, the other simple fact is the level of play is not extremely high. You can't, when you look at this season in particular, maybe it might have been different the last 2 seasons with some of those Kentucky teams. But you can't look at this season and say, hey, this team is the powerhouse.
No, absolutely
that
not.
Doesn't work. There's about 8 teams that you can put in that scenario where if they won the national championship, you wouldn't be surprised.
We talk about number one. I'm going to stay on college basketball for a minute. We're rolling on it right now. It's so exciting, folks. I mean, I've said this for the last couple of weeks. We've been in March Madness since the first week of January when conference play started. I mean, this has been so exciting. If usually you'd sit down and watch a basketball game like last night, 4th-ranked Michigan against unranked Penn State, who hasn't won a game in their conference yet this year. How many people actually said, nah, that's not the game I want to watch. It's not going to be real exciting. Well, I'm sorry to tell you. There was one point during the game, it wasn't real exciting. I turned and looked, Greg, when we were having a meeting. It was 75-75.
Yep.
I mean, I'm telling you, folks, watch these games. You don't think it'll be exciting. But my question to you, Greg, right now is going to be, come Monday morning, who's going to be our new number one, especially with Duke playing Miami Saturday, number 3 against number 6. Miami beat them earlier this year. But they're going to Duke. Does Duke let one slip away? And if they do, is that going to put Miami to number one? Can they get over a Gonzaga? Can they get, will they get them over an Indiana that just lost or a Michigan? Or
look, when you're looking at Duke, they just beat Virginia Tech. They just beat Boston College. They got UVA tonight. If they go in and they whoop Miami and they avenge that loss, and I'll tell you what. This game is not going to come down to players. It's going to come down to the coaching.
Yep.
And there's no way Coach K is going to let them run up on them. If they do, then my confidence in Coach K will be forever.
Can you make up a
shaken.
27-point deficit?
The Duke Blue Devils can. Here's the thing: what Miami doesn't have, they don't have the depth of Duke. Duke has about 57 All-Americans on their bench.
Yeah.
And they have them there for a reason.
Well,
so
where
they can
were
always, hey, again, sometimes the team gets hot and you get steamrolled. That's just what it is. And if you don't think Coach K didn't use that as a learning moment, I mean, same thing happened to every great college team. They got throttled at some point by someone. Maybe they came away with a win. Maybe they came away with like a small loss that didn't really hurt them come tournament selection time. But, these are kids. These are not paid professionals.
Well, at this point, I agree totally with you. But the only thing I'm going to say to Miami and their coaching staff is tell your boys not to be so worried about running up and down the court and slapping the floor, because this is going to be a different Duke team.
Well,
a different Duke team than you played on January 23rd.
I'm so sick of that. Look.
You got time to worry about slapping the floor. You ain't thinking about the game.
You're just telling everybody on your team that, hey, you know what? I'm getting ready. I'm going to D this guy up. It's not, it used to be, that happened in high school all the time. You go back to Indiana high school basketball, where I grew up playing basketball, where you went to games, you saw that happen all the time.
Yep.
Where there was a point guard where maybe the guy guarded him, everybody knew he didn't have the stuff to get him, but he said, damn it, slap the floor. I got you. I'm going to play you hard. And for them to do that, all that's saying is, hey, we're ready. That's a team thing.
Yeah,
But I hate for it to be looked at as they're trying to show Duke up.
No. I didn't say that. All I'm saying is get ready, because it's going to be a different Duke team. You're not going to beat them 90-63.
They'll
I'm telling you right now.
And try to get after it now.
And you're going to Duke. Let me say that one more time. You're going to Duke.
Hey,
and you walk in that house.
If you look at the last 5 years, Duke has had a lot of problems with a lot of teams from Florida now.
Just for the record, undefeated at home this year.
Sure,
Duke. Three losses, all on the road to good opponents, and I think Duke is a better. I think even though they had the loss to Maryland. I think Duke, since the Miami game, I think Duke is a more well-rounded team since the Miami loss. I think Duke has improved all year long, and this Seth Curry kid, I'm telling you, Miami, it doesn't happen twice. Lightning does not strike twice. It's going to be a long bus ride home. I'm sorry. Duke wins this game. Duke wins the game.
I think you know what? I think Duke does win the game.
And if they do, that's going to say.
But I'll tell you what: if Miami comes close, if Miami gets within 10, I'm not saying that's a moral victory, because there's no such thing. But that can give them confidence going into the tournament.
We were talking about teams. We talked about Michigan losing, 4th-ranked Michigan losing to Penn State. That was just, they should not have lost that game. They let one get away. But sticking with our top teams, I got to talk about the University of Florida, the Gators.
No.
They just lost a game to Tennessee. Now, I'm going to tell you folks a stat. If you don't know it, I'm going to let you know this. But I said myself, it had no relevance going into the game the other day. Florida, going into the Tennessee game the other night, was 1 for 8 in Tennessee. In the last 9 games, they're 1 for 9 now. I don't know what it is about going there that Florida can't play them well, but just for the record, with that stat, this goes back to the Joe Kim Noah, the national championship days, everything. They could not beat Tennessee in Tennessee.
You know what? I hear you say that, and I hear the references to Tennessee specifically, but I also look at the fact that when the Florida Gators go on the road, they are a less than impressive team.
Yes.
Consistently. And while they were locking down people on defense at the early part of the year, blowing teams out, they're now at a point where I think some of the conditioning of other teams is actually catching up. I think Florida, the University of Florida basketball team, is very well conditioned, and they have a strength department that got them in good spots early.
Right.
And I think everyone's catching up, and now it's more of a level playing field. And so they're not going to be able to run you out of the gym. They're not going to be able to outpace you. Now they got to play you. Well, and the fact is they live and die by the 3, and the defense is a makeshift. Their defense starts with the 2 guards getting pressure in a sort of amoeba trap type defense, and then everyone else has to respond. And that's where they've been getting killed by teams that are more athletic than they are, which doesn't happen often.
You know, though, the thing is I agree with you. They've been less than impressive at home. I mean, on the road. Excuse me. But they when they're winning by 11 points or less, they lose. They got to be beating up people to win. And here's where that comes from. They have no backcourt. Or excuse me, I apologize. They have no front court. They haven't been playing in their back court.
They just don't have a front court that has a backbone.
Well, Young, Yaget's been out. They're not, but it doesn't matter who their talent is. They don't use it, Greg. They're so quick to run down 3 feet beyond the arc, no play set up, no ball movement, and shoot that 3 all the time. Now, here's what I will say.
It was fine when it was working.
Oh, when Florida shoots the 3 and they're on, you can't beat them.
Now,
but when we get to the tournament, and your 3s are not on, there's no tomorrow.
Well, and that's probably better suited for where the conversation should go. Is how do they attack the tournament? And what it is you can't rely on what you do and what you do well to win. You can rely on it for it to put you in a position of success, but you're going to need either team leadership, incredible play by some player, or being able to better your rebounding or have better defense in the tournament on the road against a hostile opponent that you don't even know have never played. You're talking about going off 3 days tape where
you're going on the road, and Florida's not playing well there.
Right,
so that's already against them.
Right, it's against them, but that doesn't mean that they can't recover. Billy Donovan, top 5 coach in the land.
Yeah,
Fair?
Absolutely.
Right. That's why I can't count him out.
But why not change your plays? Why will he not get away from his game plan when it's not working? Now I know you're
because he might be teaching them, hey, when it doesn't work, I need to see what you guys can do extra to get us out. I know, but where do you learn
out of time for teaching, buddy?
Where do you learn it from?
I understand that, but you better.
He comes from a pretty long coaching tree that employs kind of the same
Now you
stuff.
Talked about schedule earlier. The SEC is not a very good basketball conference.
Right.
We know that. They were when they had Kentucky rolling. Okay, Florida was playing good. Every once in a while, Vanderbilt's decent. We expected more from Missouri this year. But I'm telling you.
Missouri that beat Florida in Missouri?
Yeah.
That Missouri?
Yeah, okay. That Missouri. We expected more from them. But you know what I mean? Well, there was a horrible game for Florida. I mean, there was no... That team didn't play together for nothing. That was a terrible game. But look at the teams they beat. I mean, SEC is not a very strong basketball conference, and they were beating people up, Greg, like you said, constantly. But then they had a close game against Arkansas, and Arkansas just ran away with it. They got into a tight one with Missouri. They were able to pull it off. So was Kansas State and Arizona, all able to do the same thing. So come tournament time, Billy, if you're going to make a game plan, I think you ought to get ahead. When they're running and gunning, when Florida's flying up and down that court for the entire game, I think they're one of the toughest teams to run with in the country. You can't doubt conditioning in that team, but I haven't seen it the last couple weeks.
Anybody is great when they're really good, you know. And I understand what you're saying, but you know, look, Florida needs to get back on doing what they were doing before. They need to look at a different way to score points. Murray needs to get more than inside the 3-point line by 3 feet. He needs to work down low. Patrick Young has to be the nastiest guy in the gym every single game, and he's not.
Yep.
That's the biggest problem.
No toughness to him. No toughness. Well, anyways, folks, two last things I got to shoot out to you. Keep an eye on Georgetown. Keep an eye on Georgetown. They are rolling. And 2, watch Saturday's game. I think it's a 3 or 6 o'clock game. You're going to watch Duke and Miami. Number 3 against number 6. This is a national championship caliber game. It's going to be one of the best games you've seen all year, or probably will see.
And here's the thing: Miami has an attitude about them. They kind of freestyled on them, and Duke's going to come like, if we lose, we're going to let down Coach. And, I mean, you're talking about a rock pushing against a hard place. It's going to be a great game.
All right, folks, we're going to move on to a little NFL here, Greg. We got to talk few things going on. First thing I want to get into, are the Patriots scared? Are the Patriots in trouble? Tom Brady restructures his deal. 3-year, $27 million extension. Takes less money. I think is going to be an accordion effect on the league, but we'll get into that. I want the other quarterback. Was he just being...
It's creative accounting.
Well, here's what I'm saying. Was he being unselfish? Was he... I don't think there was a fact of wanting to remain a Patriot. I think he's there for life. It opened up $15 million worth of cap space for the Patriots. They're looking for money wherever they can get it. They know they need a secondary. They know their receivers, they got depth in receivers, but it's like the big playmakers are gone. They don't have a downfield threat since they got rid of Randy Moss. So what are they doing this year? What are they worried about?
First, I don't think they're worried. I think like every single year, Belichick looks at what he has in his cupboard and says, I'm going to put the best meal together that I can with what I have. And if I need extra ingredients, then I'm going to try to go get it. But if I can't get it, I'm going to use what I got to get what I need to get. When you look at Brady's contract, the last year of his contract, which is 2017 with this extension, everybody thinks, he just made, $9 million more split over 3 years. No, what it really comes down to is a restructuring where he gets more money guaranteed earlier. So he was guaranteed before, I think, $30 million, and now he's guaranteed $57 million through 2017 with incentives. So the only way that they can actually void his contract is for poor play performance. If he gets injured in 2015 and his knee is done, ACL, PCL, MCL, he comes back to 17, get hurt. 2017 gets hurt again. He still makes all his money. This was about guaranteeing more money for him and freeing up cap space. 2017, the cap hit with Brady is still $15 million, which is going to seem really cheap based on what Drew Brees is making, what Peyton Manning is making, what Flacco stands to make. Hell,
we're going to know.
What's his name? Phillip Rivers is making $17.7 million a year, and he hasn't gotten to the show.
Well, we're going to know by the 12th of March. We'll all know what Belichick's thinking. And what I mean by that is...
They have to sign Welker. They have to sign Edelman. They still have to get the left tackle signed.
But here's where I'm going with that.
They're going to try to pick up Elam in the draft? I mean...
Well, okay. Here's what I'm thinking with that. Now...
Do they go after a big wide receiver?
I think they need to. They need a downfield threat.
Lloyd.
Well, here's what I'm getting at. I'll know what Belichick's thinking by the trade deadline. Here's why. All that talk about Ed Reed to help their secondary that's hurting bad. Mm-hmm. If they don't go get a Jason Elam and they go get a Ed Reed, then I know he knows he's got 2 years left with Brady. And that's all he cares about is 2 years, not later on. And I think that's what he's thinking, is 2 years. Now, if they go get an Elam and they start putting young kids back there and building, and you go get through the draft, you go get a downfield threat. You could get a Larry Fitzgerald, but he ain't going to come cheap, and that's going to tie up a lot of your cap space right there.
He's not going to cost too much more than Brandon Lloyd. And, hey, he wants to get the hell out of Arizona.
Yep.
You don't want to be there?
Hey, I think Belichick's got a little bit of a noose around his neck in the sense that not his job, but when can I get back to the Super Bowl? And I think he knows with Brady, he has 2 years left.
Here's where I disagree and sort of agree with you. Brady, 2 years left, yes. I don't think he'll play in 2017. If so, he will be mentoring the backup, which is right now Ryan Mallett. That aside, Arkansas, coach's son, throws a pretty good ball. 6'7", always look good in preseason. Second, I also think that Belichick is thinking, hey, you know what? I don't need to win a Super Bowl to cement my legacy. Because we're not talking about Jerry Jones. We're talking about Robert Kraft.
But they still want to.
Oh, everybody wants the prize. But what you don't do, and again, this is philosophy in a different way of thinking. The way Kraft approaches it, he says, let's put the best thing on the field that we can based on these principles and what we have. And then from there, let's be successful. And ideally, we win a championship. They are making, from a financial business standpoint, which I don't like to focus a lot on, even though I do, they're making money. They're a successful team. You know, that was always the big knock on the NBA Los Angeles Clippers. They made money every year. They brought in talent every year. But upper management sucked. Upper management doesn't suck here, and that's why they're successful. So, if success is defined as, hey, we're making money, and we're putting people in the seats, and we're exciting, and we're able to go to places, and people travel, that's what success is. So, there's not this great push, even though competitively, with Belichick, Brady, and this deal is a sign of it, they want to win a championship, and they want to win it now.
Well, yes, they know they have 2 years left. I agree with you totally.
Oh, here's a good question. Spur of the moment. Who's more desperate for a championship, Kobe or Tom Brady?
There's a good
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, let's come back to that because we could argue about that all day.
We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that on the end of the NBA.
That's big. That's really big. Here's the thing. They know they got 2 years left. And if you watch football, you understand what I'm about to say. New England plays in a very, very, very weak division. Don't doubt me. You know I'm right now. A very weak division. But I'm going to say this. They're going to win 5 of those 6 games this year. They're going to split one.
3 varies.
They're going. I was going to throw a fourth one in, but I'm friends with you. Listen, they're going to split with Miami this year. I'm telling you, I'm looking forward to seeing what Miami is going to do because they're going to have a big offseason like they did last year.
So let's say they go 4-2 in division.
Okay, fine. I don't think they beat Baltimore again. I don't think they beat Cincinnati. And I'll tell you what, don't think they don't split with Houston. And then we don't even know.
Houston? What?
Just listen. I'm telling you. And then let's talk about Pittsburgh. They split one there.
I don't want to go down team by team with you, but give me 10 seconds on each one. Why, since they whooped the Texans twice, what have the Texans done?
Texans get better every year. And they're going to win. They're going to beat them. Patriots, everybody's starting to figure the Patriots out. Patriots are old and they're
Texans and Atlanta are supposed to get better every year. And what do? They disappoint.
Yep.
You're talking about Baltimore. Baltimore had their number last year.
Yep.
It was a gaffe by the boy that they got from Buffalo, Lee Evans, for dropping the ball. And then they got him this year, won the bowl.
Yep.
Prior to that, I mean, Cincinnati?
Hey, I mean, they beat Houston in the playoffs, 41-28, okay?
And they whooped them regular season.
Okay, can I finish?
No.
They turned around and got spanked by Baltimore. They got exposed.
With Brock out, you're right.
Now, they played a mediocre Arizona team who did well in the beginning of the year. I will say that. Week 2, and they lost to them.
Right.
All right? They had a good run going. They turned around and lost to Seattle. Okay? I don't know what their schedule is this year, who they're playing there, but you better be worried about that. Then you play a lousy Jets team, and you only beat them by 1 point. Let's say they split one there this year.
Was a W?
Or it was a 3-point win, whatever it was.
So it's a W?
It's a W.
Okay.
I give you that. You turn around, you barely get by a mediocre Buffalo team.
Right, but also during this time, look at their defense, how it was the worst defense damn near in the league. And to be able to do what you're saying is more of a compliment than it is a knock on what they don't have. Look, the cover's bare. They put all their money. This is an offensive league.
Yep.
You start with your quarterback, and you get stud receivers, and, the running back position has gone down a little bit in terms of importance and people grading it high and actually getting and putting a lot of resources, team resources, from a financial standpoint into the position. But make no mistake, that's why you see all these 1, 2, 3, 4-year running backs. That's why MJD in Jacksonville didn't get anything. Steven Jackson, who opted out of his contract, voided his contract with the Rams, he's going to go where? He's expected to be paid $7 million this year coming up. He opted out.
Well, here's the thing. Let's look at this for a minute, because I'm saying New England loses 5 games this year. New England loses 5 games this year, and with the 5 losses, going 11-5. And I think Miami's going to be knocking on the door at 9-7 this year.
They'll still win their division.
Because it's the weakest division in football. It used to be the NFC West. It's the East now. It's the AFC East. But listen, they got to play Denver this year.
Do they have can the New England Patriots choose which division to play in?
No, but I'm just saying they play in that division's been weak.
You're
for
not
a long
just
time.
saying, you're raising your voice and you're yelling. That's what you're saying.
Let me say this to you. At home this year. At home in New England.
Right.
They're going to play Denver.
Yeah.
They're going to play the Steelers.
And
they're going to play the Saints.
Right.
Different team this year. Don't judge them by last year. Don't judge the Saints by last year.
Don't judge what?
The Saints play according to last year.
I told you before. I expect the Saints to have a great record this year because the way the NFL schedule is, you end up playing, I think, 4 opponents at your level, and they finished not the top. So they're going to play subpar teams. Those are 3 extra games or 4 extra games that they're going to win. So, yeah, they're going to have a nice fluffy schedule the same way Denver did.
Yeah, Denver.
Because if you look at Denver's teams that they beat, that's why they went out.
They only play in 16 weeks. They only play 6 teams that had a winning record last year. Only 6 teams.
Not their fault.
No, it's not. But I say them at home this year, including Miami, Tampa, the Jets, the Bills, and Cleveland. They lose 2 of them games at home. They lose 2 of them. Away, they got Atlanta, Houston, Baltimore, Cincinnati. They could lose 3 of those just as easy. Then you got Miami.
You have no faith.
It's not faith. They know they're in trouble. And I'll tell you what.
What's this in trouble?
With Brady having the fit he had during the AFC Championship, the frustration he showed, what happens if they go on a 2 or 3 game losing streak? Can he rebound from that? He ain't used to that. Can he understand that? Can he grasp it and lead that team forward?
You got to be kidding
I'm not kidding. I'm asking you a question.
Yes, that's what the infrastructure is there for.
He got frustrated and lost in the AFC Championship game.
He lost because he didn't play well, and Welker couldn't catch up.
All right. Well, that's fine. That's Brady. And you know what, folks? He can take a bit of a pay cut and go backwards. And your wife earned $45 million in 2011. Most players' wives don't even work. He was able to drop back a little bit.
Let me ask you this.
Moving on.
Let's get off the Patriots a little bit. Let me ask you this. With the Patriots, do you think that this influences, there's a lot of quarterback mystery going on right now. Do you think that this influences Joe Flacco's contract?
I don't think it influences, but I think that when they sit down at the table and write it up, the owners of the Ravens are going to say, look what Tom Brady did for his team. They will say that. You know they will say that.
They can't say that.
And they're going to say that.
The reason why they can't say that is they offered his ass peanuts at the beginning of the season, and he mortgaged himself on winning the Super Bowl, and he did. But going on.
They're saying that. Let's move on a little bit in the NFL. 49ers, earlier in the week, were confident they could get this Alex Smith trade done with Kansas City or Arizona. He's going to Kansas City. The details aren't done, but it's a pretty much, they shook hands. It's a done deal. Alex Smith is already looking for a house in Kansas City. That's where he's headed. Good fit, bad fit? Well, I think Kansas fans are sick and tired of getting San Fran leftovers, but if it makes you feel better, this is not a Bono. It's not a Montana. This kid is good.
Joe Montana.
This kid is legitimately good. He's going to play with Holmgren. No, not Mike Holmgren. Excuse me. Reed. And they may put something together. And they may, if they'll put some players around.
Do you really believe that?
Wait till week 5 or 6 and then ask me if I really believe it, okay?
This is the absolute worst fit ever.
How's it a bad fit?
No, not a bad fit. It's the worst fit.
Well, it's kind of like Kansas City has been like Oakland lately. It's a place for quarterbacks to die.
This is now Alex Smith's 8th offensive coordinator in 9 years.
Yep.
He was labeled bust up until Jim Harbaugh comes.
Yep.
Harbaugh comes. He loses his job based on injury and concussion.
6-2 at the time, and top quarterback in the league.
Sure, woe is me, but more of a manager. Now, if you really look at what Harbaugh did, he had him throwing anywhere between 20, 25 times a game, right? Mm-hmm. What does Andy Reid do?
Run.
Andy Reid passes.
Oh, excuse me, he passes all right.
He sent Jamal Charles a text saying, "Hey, you know what? All them runs you had last year,
you ain't getting them.
You better be catching them, son."
Yep. Well, you know what? So you're saying you don't think the two of them can turn that team around?
What I'm telling you is that with Andy Reid throwing like he does, what he doesn't do is he doesn't take stock of his team, and if he believes, he doesn't.
Now they got the big receiver.
Look, they had 6 Pro Bowl players. Dwayne Bowe's the man. I get it and all that. But what I am saying, that left tackle's doing what they need to do. They got to shore up the line, and they got to get better defensive presence. But the main problem is when you're looking at the Kansas City Chiefs, they're not going to be able to wholly protect Alex Smith. Alex Smith is not the type of guy that's going to drop back 40 to 50 times a game, which is exactly what Andy Reid's going to do. Now, if Andy Reid, out of some miracle, says, hey, you know what? I actually look at my personnel and see if this is the best way to go. If he does that, yes, Alex Smith has a chance. But you look at what Andy Reid has done. He's always signed players early to big contracts to tie them up to make sure everybody's happy. Well, he's going to do that without Smith.
Can they go 500?
They're trying to do 500. They got to look. Should they go 500? I don't know, because I don't trust upper management. Without Andy Reid has not done anything of any significance without quality upper management. And looking at what the Chiefs have done, I don't know that they have it. And if they don't have it, you can expect this team to do exactly what Romeo Crennel had them do, which is underachieve and be maybe 9-7, maybe 8-8. I mean, but if you're talking about them being a contender, I mean, yeah, can they beat up the Raiders? Yeah. Can they beat up a Phillips Rivers-led San Diego Chargers? Maybe. Denver? Yeah, they might lose twice. So already, they're out. Now, they also have to play a bunch of other teams that I don't think that they'll be able to put a solid game plan together. And, you know what? Going back to Alex Smith, nobody trusted this guy ever. And then when everyone said, hey, you know what? I trust this guy.
Yeah.
The guy who put him in that position said, you know what? I trust him, but I don't trust him like I trust this guy. Yeah. And that's when Kaepernick got the start. And that's where the league's going. And Alex Smith, he came in with Aaron Rodgers. He is there if he produces, which I don't think he will because I don't think he's going to have the support that he needs. Maybe he gets in a position.
He still took a team to the NFC Championship.
Right, and he was a bust the previous 7 years.
Okay, I'm saying I agree with you, but he's getting better. And if him and Andy Reid can figure out a way to better that team, in the sense that by using Alex Smith the way they need to, I think
you know what I was thinking about Alex Smith today, and I was trying to say to myself, I said, I want to talk to Larry about Alex Smith. I want to use, some type of metaphor. And it all of a sudden came to me when I was driving. Alex Smith is literally a rented mule.
Yes, I agree.
That's exactly what he is. He can get up and down the mountain. You can put a whole bunch of crap on his back. It doesn't fall off. Maybe slow at times, but he gets you up there. And then when they finally took some weight off his back, hey, they saw he had a little spry in him. He could go up the hill a little bit faster, but now they moved to a different mountain. He doesn't have the guys they had before. He don't know what weight's on his back. He has another guy whipping his ass with a whip.
He's got twice as much weight on his back and no support.
And he's in a different mountain, and he don't know what's going on. And how can you expect that mule? Again, we're not talking about thoroughbred. We're talking about mule.
Good analogy. Well, the bad part is it's just like Oakland, Kansas City. It's a place for quarterbacks to go die. We've seen it happen with Matt Castle. And I got a bad feeling Alex Smith's headed down the same road. But to his credit, he's going to be with Andy Reid, and we'll see what happens. Now, talking on San Fran a minute ago, interested in Darrelle Revis from the Jets. Good move, bad move, doesn't matter. I mean, this is a team with no secondary. Can't stop anybody, Greg. Can't stop anybody.
Let's look at San Francisco 49ers and the division that they're at. They got to play Seahawks twice.
Yeah.
And they have the problem that they had in the playoffs. The difference between the regular season and the playoffs, when Jason Smith got hurt, Alden Smith didn't do what he was able to do. He had 17 sacks prior to Jason Smith getting hurt. After that, he had 0. They went from holding teams to 17 points a game in the playoff in regular season. In the playoffs, it went to 27. Yep. You might say, hey, you know what? And now they have 12 draft picks in this round. So, with trading Alex Smith, getting a second round, a fifth round, and a bag of peanuts, I think that they are in a position where they could deal picks, not lose players or cash. But if you sign Darrelle Revis, you have to make sure that he's on the same page as you are, which is we're not going to restructure your contract every 2 years. You're not going to be the highest paid defensive player, period. That's not going to happen. If you want to be part of a team, if you want to be in the fold.
Kenny, hold up. Don't pay him much. He hasn't done nothing in a year and a half. He hasn't even played football in a year and a half. And when he tried to,
you bet against him? Let me ask you this.
I'm not betting on him until I see him play for a while.
All right, so if you had to bet with Revis coming back and being successful or against him coming back and being successful, what would you bet on?
It's a tough call. He's got that
It's
ACL.
A tough call.
He's got that ACL. He came back once, had the injury again. I mean, you're talking about a defensive back who's got who in my mind, after an injury like that, you know this,
right?
Greg,
But
they're not all Adrian Petersons. I don't think he can perform at the level he was.
If you can control the guaranteed money, then it doesn't matter because you can cut him at any time.
And fine, go after him, get him. You know he's a good shutdown corner, but right now you really don't know what he's going to be like.
Do you rent him for 1 year?
Yeah, that's fine. Go get him.
Take his contract.
But before you rent him, make sure he's going to be ready to start the season.
You don't need him to start. If he comes back week 4, you're straight.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'm not right now going into starting the season after, and especially with the way San Fran's mentality is right now, with what they're thinking, they don't care about anything. The day after the Super Bowl, they started working towards this one again.
Let me ask you this:
these guys,
what's more important for them? Is it a corner? Forget shutdown. Just a corner that can be competitive, or is it someone getting to the quarterback?
No, they need a corner.
And depth at middle and depth at linebacker.
They need to be able to shut people down because that was killing them this year. They were getting eaten alive. You know what? They were going down, putting points on the board, but another good team was running right down and doing the same thing. They have to be able to stop people. All right, we'll see what happens with that, folks. We'll keep you informed of what's going on with them trades. NFL Combine's going on. Quick rundown, folks. Receivers are looking really good. Linemen, offensive and defensive linemen, all looking real good. Quarterbacks, not so great. And I don't mean that they're not looking good. They're just not the quarterbacks of the past. It's just an off year in my mind for quarterbacks. It looks like Geno Smith's going to go first.
Geno Smith is grading out high.
Well, I don't care about grades in the combine. That's useless as can be. I mean, look at your great combine players.
But that's what the combine. That's what the combine is.
They never have performed hardly in the NFL. They don't.
Let me ask you this: Who you think is going to make a bigger impact on the NFL? Landry from Oklahoma or Geno Smith?
First year, if he's a starter, probably Geno Smith.
Let's say after an honest 2 years.
Landry could be a backup. I got to say Geno Smith because where's Landry going to start? Where's Barkley going to? Here, that's what I was thinking about today before we got in here. You're seeing teams trade for quarterbacks and stuff like that before the draft. I think it's a good move. Go get a quarterback that's in the league that's playing. Go get somebody that's out there. There's really not much in the draft that you can build your team on and go like a Luck or a Griffin or Russell, who was too small to play anyways when he was at the combine. But I mean, for that matter, Tannehill. I mean, when these guys were drafted, teams went, "This is what we are going to build our team around." You're not going to see that this year.
But you know what? Here's the thing, and this is where I understand. I understand what you're saying, but what I'll also say is that, a lot of this has to do with the CBA. You look at 3 years or before the lockout, and before they played that not short season, but preseason-less season, they were giving all this big money to anybody in the top 8, and it was like $53 million. I think Sam Bradford had $54 million, 6 years, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Same contract Fitzpatrick had from Buffalo, and then he tanked everything. Sorry, Ed. But now you get those. Russell Wilson, he's 3 years, $2.9 million.
Yep.
You look at Andrew Luck's contract; they're not making anything. So there's a resurgence, if you will, of trying to get back up to the top because now the same thing that Joe Banner thinks in Cleveland that he thought in Philadelphia. Same thing Belichick thinks. Mm-hmm. Ozzie Newsome, they think value.
Yep.
And right now, there is not a better time for value in the draft. So, yes, are we going to have the quarterback draft of last year? Absolutely not. But can you find pieces in there that are going to help? If Geno Smith drops, is that not the perfect backup for Colin Kaepernick?
Yeah, actually, because of his style, sure, absolutely.
Or even a Cam Newton?
He ain't going there, though. And he ain't going there either because Oakland's looking for him. Oakland will destroy him.
I understand, but what I'm saying is there is a place, even though these aren't the
where does the Barkley go? Where does the Landry go? Where do these guys go? They're going to be backups is what they're going to do.
When San Francisco got rid of Alex Smith, they're going to draft the quarterback this year.
Oh, yeah, they have to. They absolutely have to. But who are they going to go get?
They got who are they going to go get? They might get Geno Smith.
Well, anyway, so like I said, folks, Oakland's interested right now in Geno Smith. They got their eye on him. You got the defensive linemen are having a good combine. Matter of fact, your top 2 picks in the draft are probably going to be defensive linemen. You're looking at Sharif Floyd.
10 picks are going to be linemen.
Oh, my God. Linemen,
you might have a linebacker in there somewhere, maybe a skill player, but for the most part, and that's going to be combine related once they do all the testing and everyone grades out.
Well, Denard Robinson from Michigan, who used to be their quarterback, at the combine, he's working out with the receivers. They like how he looks. I didn't want to do it, Greg, but before we get off the NFL, we got to talk about Teo. So let's give him 2 minutes of time. Still answering questions about his personal life at the Combine. 6th slowest linebacker at the Combine. He's lighter than they said that he played at all year. I don't believe if he goes in the first round, you're looking late in the first round, if he even goes. He runs a 4.8 240. He's 20 out of 26. He has a pro debut coming up. At this point, Greg, he is not a 3-down linebacker. We know that. When they put him against NFL talented players, he got exposed. The guy said to me the other day, he played USC. What USC this year? Nobody USC? A Pitt, a Boston College.
The USC, you want to go down the list? Have problems. The USC that doesn't have their full scholarship. The USC that can't get simple plays done. That USC.
Yeah. So you're talking about teams.
Pittsburgh, Purdue, BYU.
Yeah. So he looked good in them games.
Boston College.
But in the NFL, you put him against Alabama. He was exposed. And who's to say that wouldn't have happened in a conference championship game if they were in a conference? So, for that matter, I think the kid's got his hands full, his plates full. And one thing, though, I will stick up for him on. I'm in complete and total disagreement, and I'm ashamed that they asked this. I feel bad for even saying it myself. It's ridiculous what they're asking him at the Combine about his sexual preference. First and foremost, does that matter? Is that the time or place? And if it is, you better tread lightly if it's a team asking it, because you could wind up in trouble.
Okay, you just opened up a whole can of worms. And that 2-minute thing, ideally, doesn't get outside of 4, but I'm going to try to keep it short. Okay, Manti Te'o. We all know what's going on. He fell in love with this chick online who was basically a dude pretending that he was a chick. He felt embarrassed. He got in a spot where he didn't feel comfortable, and he ended up lying about it. Now, because of that lie, everybody thinks that he's lying about most stuff, and I get that. Do I think that he's the most gullible person in the United States? Probably. Do I think he's a bigger idiot? Yes. That aside, as it relates to the Combine, those questions are going to happen. He spent the last 3 weeks, if not longer, with IMG preparing for this. He sat with PR specialists, he sat with trainers, he sat with executives, and he's already been through all this, quote, rigorous process that he basically duplicated when he went to the Combine. So from that standpoint, there's nothing to see. Is he telling us the truth? Absolutely not. I don't believe it. I don't think anybody can believe it. Now, when you look at his performance on the field, here's the problem. He didn't grade out great in the Combine, and that was a big deal because he told everybody that he was 4.5, 4.6 speed. He ran a 4.8. 20 out of 26 linebackers, that's where he ended up. Now, everyone says, okay, but if you look at the tape, the guy plays with instincts. And so you say, okay, well, if he has 4.8 speed and he plays with instincts, then what happens when he gets old? He has 5.1 speed, and those instincts that he's been using that are supposed to get him to where he needs to be, maybe they lack a little bit, and that's the problem. This guy, based on what he's doing right now, is not a 10-year guy. He's a 5-year guy. Can he still play ball? Absolutely. Is he going to be the end-all, be-all? Absolutely not. Why? Because he's going to have to go into a locker room where they say, hey, you know what? We're not going to tease you. We're not going to get on you. We're not going to do any of that. And that's not going to happen in the National Football League. Should he get through training camp and actually make the field, he's going to hear it from the fans. He's going to hear it from opposing players. So, all this stuff where, and this is what I go to, when he knew the truth, and he decided to lie on TV and say, we're still together, it's the whole thing. That's not the type of intestinal fortitude that you can put or expect from somebody who's going to be a leader of men in the locker room, that other guys are going to say, hey, you know what? This guy can get it done.
Yep.
And so he now has to go to a team where he's in a supporter role because that intangible is gone.
Yep.
And no one's gonna get behind it. Can he reinvent himself? Absolutely. Do some creative ads, whatever.
Right now I'm asking, when you say reinvent himself, my first thing comes to my mind, does he have the heart to do it?
I think he has a heart, but honestly, I don't think that is going to happen.
I don't see the killer instinct in him. I don't see nothing when I watch this kid at the combine or play. I don't see nothing linebacker in this kid. I mean,
what I don't know. Here's the thing, Larry. You're out of shape, and I'm probably worse out of shape.
How you know I'm out of shape? I'd probably run on.
I played basketball. I played basketball with you a couple of weeks ago, and I know you're out of shape. And I know I'm out of shape because I was breathing heavier. If we lost 15 pounds, wouldn't we be faster?
Oh, heck yeah.
Now, how is this supreme athlete not faster after he's been boasting that he's faster, going away to work for 5 weeks?
Let me say it again. Heart, Greg. Heart. I'm telling you right now. Hey, listen, folks, the combine's on. Pro days are coming up. You got the trade deadline on the 12th. April's the draft. A lot going on in the NFL. We're going to keep this show moving because we could go on that all day. We're going to keep you informed each and every week of what's going on, what's big. But, folks, I got to move on to the NBA. And I got a little dilemma. I'm off the Lakers a little bit today because I got to talk to somebody directly. LeBron, listen to me, my man. Listen to me. Who cares? You're the one person in the NBA or professional sports, for that matter, that I'd sit back in this chair right now and go, he don't care what critics, he don't give one iota what they got to say, nor has he ever. Listen, dude, don't let them get to you. Don't let them bother you. This pregame dunk thing, your people that criticize you when there's nothing left to criticize and your personal life, because you're straight on the money there, brother, or your game on the court each and every night, they start digging. They start looking. Few people tossed up this slam dunk contest, how crappy it is, no big names in it, it's not exciting, it's not star-studded, and a couple of the critics woke up and went, hey, look at LeBron out there, pregame warm-ups before a Miami Heat game, throwing down these monster, spectacular dunks. Why isn't he doing it? Let's start off with this, LeBron. Who cares? Who cares? You don't have to do it. There's nothing written anywhere in stone or in your contract that says you have to do that. What you're doing in pregame puts people in the seats earlier, and that's a good thing. It puts people in the seats anyways. Don't change a thing. The way you're playing is a routine. It's a pattern. It's a rhythm. Don't change a damn thing. And guess what? When they get over this, LeBron, they're going to look for something else. You, of all people, know it. You went through it when you left Cleveland. I'm telling you, keep the path. Stay on the path, man. You guys are headed. You look great. Keep it up. Dwayne Wade's playing phenomenal. Hey, don't listen to these idiots. The pregame dunk, I love it.
I hate to even lead the NBA with this type of nonsense, but here's the fact. When he's doing his pregame dunks, he's doing it in front of ticket holders, and he's doing it at home, and they are in the entertainment business. Everybody's getting on him about not being in the dunk contest. Well, guess what? When it was Dominique, when it was Spud Webb, when it was Michael Jordan, when it was Larry Nance, when it was Sean Kemp, when it was all them boys, they did it to grow the sport. The sport is at an astronomical level such that if you took out the NBA All-Star Weekend, it wouldn't really make that big of a difference. So the fact that LeBron's not in the dunk competition doesn't mean anything. To your point, Larry, I think he should keep doing this thing as long as they can. Him, Chalmers, Wade, they do a little thing so that they energize the crowd. The fact that he's not in the dunk competition, who cares? He owes it to the fans. And anything, if you really think about all the gaffes, some of the stuff that he gets criticized the most for, it's always been for the fans. Oh. It hasn't been, he's not doing it to feel better about himself. He's not doing it to make sure that everybody knows what he's doing. If it wasn't on camera, if everybody didn't say, oh, he's actually doing dunks, because it's not like it's the warm-ups that you see when he's on TV. It's pre-game. Yeah. And the fact that he's doing it for the fans and people are questioning that, I mean, what else can you get on this guy?
Nothing. They're looking. They're searching. They're searching. They're looking for something. It's criticism, and when he left Cleveland and he went through everything.
They're not looking for something. They're looking for anything.
Anything. That's why they're onto this pregame dunk. People
garbage.
Hey, listen. I don't care if I'm the owner of the Heat. I sit him down and I go, LeBron, do what you want to do. I have no problems out of you. I don't hear your name come up in anything that's an issue, a problem, detrimental to this team, nothing.
Because he doesn't want him to opt out in 2 years.
The guy scoring averaging 40 points, 16 assists. You ask that guy to go out there and go, LeBron, back off the points a little bit. I need you to feed other people. They're kind of keying on you. They're doubling on you, which they can't stop him doubling anyways. But, hey, look, we're in a championship. Let me rephrase everything I just said. It don't take a coach or an owner to go to LeBron and tell him that. If that's the case, LeBron's going to pick up on it, and his assists are going to eat you alive. Alive. So you know what? With your reputation on and off the court, you do whatever you want, LeBron. Moving on, I want to talk about your teammate, Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade has been a beast as of late. He always has been. He's been off a little this year. Maybe a slow start, chalk it up to whatever, little injuries here and there. I think the guy's getting healthy. I think he's getting excited, and I think this team is going, hey, nobody can beat us. Now, they haven't beaten the Knicks yet this year. They finally beat Chicago, and they haven't beat Indiana. So they got two teams to play around with. But I'm going to tell you right now, watching these boys play, I don't think they're going to have much trouble, Greg.
First, let me, injury aside, first, they haven't beat the Knicks, but like I told you, after you kept telling me, it's early. It doesn't
like that
matter.
tape ran back. I don't remember telling you that.
Well, we'll go to the archives. It doesn't matter about the Knicks. It matters about the Pacers. They got problems against the Pacers. In terms of Dwayne Wade, guess what? He's getting healthy.
Yep.
That's all it is. Everybody thought he lost a step. He's not one that complains about anything. So when you don't have anything to pin him on, he says, look at my numbers, judge me on that. If I'm healthy now, judge me on these healthy numbers. And I'll tell you what, when they lock down defensively, everybody's got a serious problem.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not even talking about, I'm talking about the ancillary players. Chris Bosh is able to get comfortable with the way Wade's playing. Wade closes. LeBron is able to play Magic Johnson, Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, Gary Payton, Derek Fisher type basketball where he makes the right play. Yep. He got killed for it early, but now that he's putting up what he is and he can go to the hole and does go to the hole and punishes anybody who tries to stop him, I'll tell you what, the Heat, the only people that I believe are going to be competitive with the Heat is the Indiana Pacers. Paul George coming up. David West. They got a team that plays physical, that are not afraid of them. Granger, he may or may not make it back, but I'm telling you, they have the effort. Roy Hibbert, they got the team that can actually punish them and make them play slow ball. And that's the key to beating Miami. It's not stopping their fast break, because that's not going to happen. It's not shutting down turnovers, because they are going to turn you over. It's the fact that when they play slow ball, they have to have more sets. And when they have more sets, even though they have, Battier from the corner, Ray Allen from anywhere outside,
that's where I was just headed.
Birdman trying to, bang down low, they're beefing up. I'm surprised they didn't take that 10-day on Kenyon Martin, but they're beefing up down low so that they can actually compete, because I think their only problem in the East is going to be the Indiana Pacers. Once they get to the West, I think they got it.
Hey, as I said, Dwayne Wade's hitting his peak right now in February, and that's a lot to be worried about. LeBron's been playing good. Bosh puts up the numbers they ask him to. Great. Battier is coming in and doing what he needs to do for him from the three-point line. Allen, Miller. I mean, you talk about these guys. I don't even know what their win streak's up to now. What is it, 10 or 11?
It's 11, and I'm not anybody to pat Rashard Lewis on the back, but I'm telling you, this is a guy, where, yeah, he hasn't come in and done what he's supposed to do for the coin that he demanded in previous years, but he's a guy that can catch fire in the playoffs.
And you know what? Watch this Norris kid.
Can shoot.
Watch this Norris kid.
Yep.
He's coming along.
Right.
You know what's funny? All of a sudden, these players in Miami are coming together. They're peaking out. They're playing well. They're playing great as a team. Look at the other night. They blew a 22-point lead and come back and won against Cleveland. You know, I mean, LeBron gets NBA Player of the East of the Week again. You know,
well, and this is not a Miami jock fest. This is more like,
but I'm telling
let's look at the East. And while we're looking at the East, can you talk to me about your Knicks?
A lot going on there, and I don't know who to blame it on. To be honest with you,
I think I have to blame it on the coach and Amari Stoudemire.
Wait a minute. I want to say this. Now, didn't I tell you early in the year I was worried about Stoudemire coming back?
And
I said they should play him off the bench, and if he has an attitude about it, trade him. Here's the thing.
21-9 before Stoudemire.
I'm not going to Brown. I think Mike Brown's done a good job with his team. But just as Miami started off real slow, we wondered where the hell they were, and they're coming alive. The Knicks were rolling. We're unstoppable. We beat the Heat in 2 games by a total of 40 points.
Which I said.
And now where the heck is that team? They've gone south. They pull off a win the other night, a big win. There's something missing. You know, Curry run up 54 on him. And Knicks won the game.
But y'all have Felton covering. Felton can't cover Curry. Come on.
But you know what? New York better get it together. They got Washington on Friday. You know what? They should win that game. That shouldn't be much for them. But there's something wrong there in the team. I'm sitting here right now racking my brain. I'm trying to figure it out. It is not Brown. I think they're just on a low. They're going to come back. That team's going to come back around. They're 6.5 games back, tied with Indiana for second in the East.
Well, let me ask you this. You know, and let's wrap up the East right now. You know, you look at Philly, Toronto, Detroit, Cleveland, Washington. Those are teams that are probably not going to make it.
Right.
And so going top to bottom, you have Miami, New York, Indiana, Atlanta at number 4, Brooklyn Nets, Chicago, Boston, Milwaukee. Milwaukee's not going to get any better. They're not going to bring on any people. Boston, if they're lucky, they can cheat up to maybe the 6th spot, so they have in Atlanta to play. But then you look at any team below, you know, Miami, you know, New York, you don't trust Indiana.
Well, we just
maybe they can be competitive, but you really think that they're going to be in Atlanta? You know, they should have got rid of Josh, but they didn't. You know, I don't even want to talk about Brooklyn and how they're underachieving with that $180 million backcourt.
Well, we just lost Wallace for 8 weeks. He's having foot surgery, but you seen who we signed on a 10-day contract Saturday? Kenyon Martin.
Like I said, I'm surprised.
We needed that big guy.
I'm surprised that Miami didn't pick him up.
I hope he works out. We'll see what happens. You know, there's a lot. The Knicks need a spark. Something's dead. They're not firing on all cylinders right now. Mike Brown's a little confused. I think he's digging deep into his bag of tricks, trying to pull out wins each night. But let's just see. Maybe Martin's a difference maker. Maybe he opens it up a little bit more for Melo and Felton and him, but we'll see. All right, here we go, folks. Moving on a little bit, and we got to get moving here. Looking on in the NBA, Kobe makes Mavericks owner eat his words. They go down, they play Dallas. He sticks it right to him.
First, I think this was overblown. You know,
wait a minute. Not with Mark Cuban. I don't say nothing's overblown. He meant what he said when he got called on it. Then he changed.
I'm not saying that he didn't put in a dig against the Lakers, and he wasn't saying.
And he shoved 38 down his throat to make him feel better about it.
He didn't say this is why I support Dirk. But what he was saying is that when you are in the financial trouble, and that's what everyone doesn't really realize, whether they keep Dwight Howard or not. They are in financial trouble. They are $30 million over the hard salary cap, which means that it's going to cost them, that $30 million is going to cost them $85 million based on the collective bargaining agreement, and it's going to cost them $115 million. That's what that $30 million does. It's $115 million on their payroll on top of everything to keep the team that they have right now. And when you look at it that way from a financial
standpoint, he had to make the comment he made.
He was using it as a for instance, and there is no
Mark Cuban.
He was taking a shot. Don't get me wrong,
and got called on it.
Right. He was taking a shot, but at the same time, is there a better example of another player making that much money other than Carmelo?
But did he have to make? Did he have to say anything?
No, he didn't.
Or make an example out of Kobe, for that matter?
He wasn't making an example. I'm not saying it wasn't taken out of context, and I understand.
When it left his mouth, it was taken out of context.
Look, when Cuban says something, he knows how it's going to be played. He made his millions off of broadcast.com. Yeah. Look, I get it. What I am saying, though, is that, it wasn't meant to be that severe. But when you tempt a giant, when you tempt a savage, when you tempt an assassin, what happens is you get caught. Happened to Van Gundy. They call the double nickel with Jordan. Kobe, he dropped 38, 10 assists, couple assists. What did he say on his Twitter? Amnesty that.
Amnesty that.
And that's what the amnesty clause is. The amnesty clause says, you know what, if you haven't used this clause before, you can take someone off your payroll and they will not count against your salary cap so you can sign other players. And it's done based on the collective bargaining agreement, making new rules, and then being able to adjust your current salary structure to fit within. Mm-hmm. It's basically like a loophole to get you right financially.
Right. Well, we're going to move on here a little bit, guys. We give you a lot of information tonight. I got a quick few things to touch on. Before I move on to that, I want to let you know, watch college basketball this weekend, folks. It's going to be so exciting and so much fun. Hockey's running forward. Wednesday night is usually their big rivalry night. Keep an eye on it. NBA's in full swing. We're really starting to push the envelope here with that. I told you about the NFL, the combine, the deadline for trading coming up. So get ready for that. Before we end the show tonight, folks, a couple things I want to say. Tiger Woods ends his day today even. And at the WGC, he goes out in the first round. He hasn't gotten past the second round of the World Golf Championship match play since 2008. Now he's shooting an even par. That's okay for him today. That's not bad. He's got time to recoup on that. But I tell you, it seems lately with golf, if after the first round you're even or more, you're really struggling just to make the cut.
Depends on the course. It's early. I don't put any stock into anything. You gotta wait till the cut, just to see how everyone's playing. Yeah.
We had a big week in auto racing last weekend, folks. For all you auto racing fans out there, it was a huge race. It's their granddaddy of the year, their Super Bowl, their World Series, the Daytona 500, Sunday, February 24th at Daytona International Speedway. Huge race. 42, 43 drivers, whatever it was. Jimmy Johnson wins the race. Danica Patrick wins the pole to start the race. She finishes 8th. Dale Jr. finishes 2nd. 3 big storylines at the end of the 500. Some of the better drivers, Tony Stewart, Harvick, go out early in the race. But here's my 3 big storylines, Greg. And you tell me which one turned out to be a bigger story. Jimmy Johnson winning the 500 for the second time, putting himself in an elite class of drivers to do that. Dale Earnhardt finally coming around. You know he's the crowd favorite. He has been forever. They went nuts when he took 2nd, started charging to the front to win. Or Danica Patrick winning the pole and finishing 8th. What's the bigger story?
Look, Junior, I would honestly say, and being in the South, I'm not from the South, but I'm in the South. I would probably say Junior is the bigger story because Junior is bigger.
Yep.
Everybody down here in the South loves Junior. And Dale had something to do with it. Now, nationwide, I think people expect Jimmy Johnson to win. I think that he has one of the better teams. He's able to learn from everybody in the clubhouse with Earnhardt, and they all share. And Hendricks Motors, I mean, could they have a better day?
No.
But I think, when you really look at it, it's Danica Patrick. I don't like the fact that, and here's my point with that. The story, if you look past the race, and here's where we're getting in sports. We're getting to a point where with reality TV and nobodies are somebodies,
yep.
and you have sports where there is an intriguing story, that intriguing story about somebody who may not be the best now
right.
is more recognized than sometimes the sport itself. You look at Anna Kournikova, even though she won a lot of individual titles. You look at, Danica Patrick for winning the pole, being 8th, leading 3rd for a lot of the race. These times are significant, and you're not going to get the pure winner with the pure fame. It's never going to be Michael Jordan again. It's never going to be Joe Montana again. It's never going to be Dale Earnhardt again, where the best guy who wins the most gets the most pop.
Yep.
It's not going to be that way again. What it comes down to is entertainment. And who, can you put asses in seats?
Well, I think the cars made it, the new cars, whatever they are, G6s or whatever, I think they made it a little less entertaining this year from the standpoint of being a viewer of the race and watching for people to challenge one another. I think these guys, after the wreck on Saturday, which was a major wreck, were a little unsure what these cars were going to do. They kind of got in line. They rode around for 500 laps. They really didn't make a big move till the end. Pit strategies changed track position more than anything, more than racing. But look, we'll see what these guys do. There's a lot of racing left that just started. You guys, next Sunday, March 3rd, 3 o'clock, on Fox Sports, you got from Phoenix International Raceway and Avondale, Arizona. You got the Subway Fresh Fit 500. We'll see. Is Danica the big storyline to start there? If she doesn't qualify up high and way in the back, do people go, oh, there, she's the old Danica's back? Or, is she really going to make her mark this year? We don't know. Let's give it a few weeks. Let's give it a few months, and we'll see. We'll see if she's for real.
Let me ask you this, Larry. At the end of that race, Danica said something, and I don't watch a lot of NASCAR. I do pay attention. I did watch the last 20 laps of it. And after she said, I didn't want to drop down because I thought I was going to get run over like a freight train. Now, I'm used to the NASCAR that I remember seeing is you had everybody up top, and then people dropped low, gunned it, and got in front of people and, quote, made a move.
Right.
I didn't see a lot of move making in those last couple of laps. So for the uneducated like myself, why did that happen?
That's like I just explained to you, like I was just saying. These new cars, they went out for testing early in January, had the big wreck, 22-car pileup. Junior said he was driving a forklift. The front ends are lower, the rear bumpers in these cars were higher. He drove right into the car, caused a big wreck. He said he couldn't stop it. Then they get down here for Speed Week, and we had one incident after another, a major incident on Saturday and the nationwide race, which really wasn't the car's fault. That was hard racing. Them kids were racing hard. Now, that's not the new cars they're running anyhow.
Right.
But I think with what went on in the duels and qualifying and practice and everything else, I think these drivers really wanted to find out what these cars were capable of. And on the other hand, we're also a little worried about it. And worried from the sense of not wrecking. Worried from the sense that this is the first race of the year. It's our Super Bowl. I need to get my points. I need to make sure if I don't do anything else, I finish this race. Because remember, Greg, at the end of the year, you're running for the chase. You just want to get in the chase. You want to qualify for the chase. You have a chance to win it all. If you don't get in the chase, the last 10 races of the year, you're just riding around for practice. I mean, you can win the race and win the money, but you don't have a shot at any kind of title. So these guys didn't want to go out. They weren't worried about tearing up their car. They just didn't want to, and maybe that's what Danica did. I don't think she should have made the comment she made on TV about worrying about getting freight trained, but you got to make a move in NASCAR. If she'd have come down and they'd have hit her, been a wreck, hey, that's racing. You took a chance. But I don't think she was the only one, Greg. I think they all did it, except Junior. Junior has torn up enough race cars to say, I really don't care.
Junior was giving it to him.
Junior went after it. I think he knew what he had under him. He felt like if he dropped down, he could handle the car, and that the car was going to take care of him in a sense of speaking, and he went after it. But I really believe, to answer your question, guys wanted to get out there on a super speedway, 500 miles, and it was a good test for these cars. Now they can go back down, sit with their crew chiefs, sit down, get these cars dialed in, go from track to track, and feel more comfortable. So I guess what I'm saying to you is, over the next few races, I think we're going to see a little better racing instead of so much inline. Now, inline racing is, you got to remember, Daytona was a restricted plate race.
Right.
Which, that is, they get in line and they run around. The only thing we didn't see in this race that we usually see a little more is side-by-side racing. We didn't have as many cautions. Well, there was next to no cautions in this race.
Let me ask you this. You know, I know we didn't intend to spend a lot of time on NASCAR, but just one more question that I have. So, knowing that, you know, this is the big race and everything like that, since the Sprint Cup Series, are we seeing that drivers are not? You know, I understand they're trying to win, but sometimes isn't, you know, being in third through fifth consistently in terms of winning a little bit better than winning first and maybe placing, you know, 34. So are we maybe seeing? And again, from someone who doesn't study the sport, are we seeing maybe that, you know, knowing that there's a quote championship out there, that they're playing for the championship to play to get into that top 13 or 12 teams that actually make it?
Yes, you're 100% right in what you're saying. Reason is, this isn't...
Because they're not going for wins anymore. They're going for consistency.
They are, but they're not. This isn't the racing of old days before the whole... what am I trying to say here? Before the point system started, before they had to start running for the chase.
Series, right.
Before they had to start running for the chase, okay? Back in the day when it was racing, guy was running 15th, he was wrecking whoever he had to bump to get out of the way to get to the front. If he knew he had the car, it was all about wins. It was about winning, and that's how you got points, and that's how you won the championship.
And that's how you got paid.
Right. Now, they still want to do that, because here's what happens. You're right in what you're saying. Finishing the top 10 consistently, you're going to make the chase, but here's how the chase starts. When the last race is over, before the last 10 races, that's the chase. When they start that, everybody's on an even slate, and then they go down the list of drivers, and they go, who has wins?
Right.
Take a Tony Stewart. He had 3 season wins, right? Say that's what he ends up with this year. So he's getting 10 points a win. So when the chase starts, he's got 30 points. So if a Jimmy Johnson doesn't win another race this year, he's going to have 10 automatically.
Right.
So when the chase starts, you want to have some wins so you can be competitive already. But you got to be consistent in the chase, and you do need a few wins to solidify yourself. Going in there and starting 0 isn't bad, but it feels a lot good to have some points.
And I will also think that you would have to, you know, depending how the car's running, how you're feeling, how the track's running, who's giving you help, that you have to mortgage your chances on, do I go for it versus, you know, let's get a top 10, deal with it later, and then, you know, get in the car and go for next week.
Well, yeah, as a football coach, you got to be concerned about injuries. Who's healthy, who feels good, how the team plays, this and that. As a race car driver, there's things that are beyond your control. Motor blowing, transmission dropping. Your race team, you come into a pit stop, you're in first place, and the guy drops a jack with 7 to 10 laps left, and you go out in 12th place now. And you can't catch up and get to the front and win. So now you're running just to end up in the top 10. Blown tire. A lot of stuff out of their control. So, you know, there's a lot of luck. When that guy gets in that car,
right,
there's only so much he can control. But you know what? I think we're going to see a little more exciting racing starting next week, this weekend, and every weekend after, as these guys start to figure out, and women, which I won't get into the stupid, the guy did to start your engines. That was horrible. He could have done men and women, ladies and gentlemen, he could have done anything.
Larry,
but drivers and Danica was horrible.
As two guys who both have a daughter, basically what the announcer said was, gentlemen and Danica,
drivers and Danica.
Yeah, drivers and Danica, please start your engines. And a lot of people looked at it as a shot. Some people said, hey, well, they're trying to recognize her. You know what? What I think that she wants is just being equal.
I agree.
And I think that's all she's ever asked for. Everyone doesn't necessarily like her comments or how sharp she is sometimes, but she's giving it to you like she sees it. And that sometimes that's not comfortable for people. Yeah. And we see that with a lot of other different performers when they get into certain situations.
But here's the thing, too. And don't think that Danica was blown up or bigger than NASCAR. That's typical Daytona Speed Week. Daytona is one of the races, is the only race of the season that goes on for so long. They have an entire week of racing. They get there 2 weeks early. They have practice. They have everything. So Danica's name came up every day for over a week. And then once she qualified first, it was just blown up. So now going into the other races, Greg, these teams are going to get to these tracks on Thursday. They're going to set up. They're going to be testing, they're going to be practicing and qualifying, and it's going to be Sunday. So, you might hear a little Danica, you might hear other drivers, but it's not so in your face every single day for 2 weeks. That's Daytona. That's how Daytona works. Hey, folks, we're out of time here. We overdid it a little tonight, but, man, we enjoyed talking to you. We're back on Thursdays. It's Larry and Greg. We got a lot going on. Remember what I told you. Go to the website at LarryandGreg.com. Check us out. See what we're going to be talking about week to week. And we got a lot of stuff coming up. This college basketball is really getting out of hand. It's getting out of control. It's so exciting.
In a good way.
It's nuts. In a great way. It is. Watch the Duke-Miami game. I promise you. Send me a comment on it on our website. Let me know what you thought about it. I promise it's going to be an exciting game. You will not sit still or turn the channel. I promise. Hey, folks, my name's Larry B. I sit here every Thursday with Greg. We can't wait to talk to you next week. Have a great weekend. Sometimes we can talk.